I am very honored, very grateful, and very happy to be with all of you this evening. My very special gratitude to this beautiful family, Jalpa, Yugalaras Devi, and Shailesh, and Vedant, for opening the gateway of their home to all of us. And I thank each of you on this weekday night to put aside all your other activities to be here. Thank you. I was asked to speak on finding peace in times of chaos. And I'm just admiring so much this beautiful home and this quite incredible building. 32 West, or 36, 360. It's more than I thought, actually. 360 West. But as I was admiring the architecture, and the planning, and the decorations, and the furnishings, and the lightings, and meditating on the subject of tonight, I was also reflecting on how the beauty of everything in this building and the pleasure that this building and the shelter that it gives all of us is all completely dependent for sustainability on the foundation. When you're walking through the building, how many of you think of the foundation? Nobody really, except the architect that makes it and the builders that go through the trouble. Nobody thinks of nobody appreciates. It's very rare that somebody comes to a magnificent home like this and says, "You have an incredible foundation." But yet it holds up everything. Because happiness, shelter, beauty, grace in this world, it could look really nice, it could feel really nice, but there will be inevitable storms. And when there is a foundation we can appreciate, it upholds everything through the winds, through the rains, through the storms. So this is a metaphor of life itself. If we do not have a foundation of inner meaning, inner purpose, inner peace, then whatever apparent happiness we have in this world will inevitably be disturbed. Because whatever we have, whoever we are, there will be changes that are beyond our control. Cannot control the weather, cannot necessarily control how people see you or think of you or talk about you. Can try. What to speak of, what power do we have to control the way nations and leaders of nations are dealing with each other. So it is a world of change. And the most powerful of all forces that is beyond our control is time. On a very subtle and incredible way, time is moment to moment controlling everything and everyone. So how to find peace when there's such turbulence? Foundation means what can't be seen sensually by the world, but what is actually our greatest reality. And that's what is within our own hearts and within our own minds. Two people can say the same thing, and one is filled with love, and another is filled with hate. So much of the experience we have in life is the perception that we create within ourselves. When it's a very rainy day, we may feel very uncomfortable, but the trees are feeling very comfortable. So who's right and wrong? We all have our own relative experiences. And it's so meaningful that Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita on a battlefield. And it wasn't after the war when there was peace. It was before the war when there was going to be imminent chaos. And Krishna was teaching Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita how to find deep spiritual peace. Whether he's at home with his family or fighting this apparently treacherous battle in this world. He was told to perform his duty according to his occupational nature, according to his varna and his ashram. With love, with happiness. If Arjuna could do it in the Mahabharata battle of Kurukshetra, then our life is not really as complicated as we like to think it is. And we're very eager, and it's important for sure that we have securities, we have dependable experiences that we could live for. We educate our children. We try to learn more and more ourselves. I think on the 15th floor I went through a fitness center. Something like that. So it's important to keep to, but in order to be fit, you have to do work, you have to give it time. In order to be educated, you have to give it serious time. In order to learn skills. But what Bhagavad Gita and all the saints and acharyas of all the different traditions are teaching, that we also have to give quality time and attention to actually develop that inner satisfaction, that inner peace, that inner awakening. Because without that, all our so-called happiness and all the things that we're striving for, they're very superficial. As I learned from Gaur-Gopal Prabhu and Gauranga Prabhu, things could give some satisfaction to the mind and to the physical senses. But things, whether it's money or fame or influence or pleasures, they cannot give satisfaction to the heart. There's only one thing that can give satisfaction to the heart, and that is to feel loved and to love. And without that, life is quite superficial. Life is quite incomplete. And what is the origin of that love? What is the essence of the experience of love? That's where we find true peace. And in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a beautiful verse that in many ways encapsulates the whole Bhagavad Gita. In a way, this one verse magnifies the very essence of all the scriptures and the teachings of all the saints throughout history. And the Acharyas call this verse the peace formula. In a world where so much anxiety, so much uncertainty, so much fear, betrayal, tragedy, we lose loved ones, we lose friends. It's just life. How to be happy when there's so much suffering around? The material formula is to distract our consciousness away from the emptiness and superficiality of the reality of our heart and life itself by occupying it with so many temporary things and so many different superficial relationships. But whether we're living in 360 West or a cave of the Himalayas, peace should not be dependent on that. If you can't find it in the cave, you won't find it here. And if you can't find it here, you won't find it in the cave either. Because that peace, that essential love that we're seeking, is the inseparable nature of the soul, the jiva. Nahanyate hanyamane sarire. The soul is never born and it never dies. It's not this body and it's not this temporary changing mind. The soul is our true self. We're seeing through our eyes. Whether we have spectacles or very good vision is not what's going to determine our happiness in life. So those things change. But understanding who's seeing, who's feeling, who's thinking, who it is that wants to love and be loved, and where that love actually has its fullness. Jivera Swarupoy Krishnara Nityadas. That's the true love of the soul, is to be connected with the Supreme Soul. As we see in this house, Radha Gokulananda, they are so beautifully making their residence here. But actually, we invite them, but inviting them is a very loving, reciprocal way of acknowledging that they're actually the proprietors of everything anyway. How wonderful Krishna, or God, is. He gives us everything. Then he's so grateful when we just offer him a little of what he gives us. And to actually be recognizing this as part of our everyday life. We have beautiful altar, like is in this wonderful home. This verse is from the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that we are referring to. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suhridam sarva bhutanam gyatva shantim richyati. This peace formula is very simple, but so profound. That the Supreme Lord, who has many names, who has appeared in many incarnations, who in the Gita is Krishna, he says, I am the supreme object of love. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravardate. Krishna also tells, I'm the source of all material and all spiritual world. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly worship me with all their hearts. Just as we gave the analogy of a foundation of this building that is sustaining everything within the building, even though it's unseen and unrecognized. Similarly, a tree. You can't see the roots of the tree. It might be a beautiful tree with beautiful leaves and wonderful flowers and wonderful fruits. But it's the root that gives it support and life. And when the roots are strong, even when storms come. I've seen places where there have been cyclones, and most all the trees are just torn down. But the trees that have very deep, healthy roots, they withstand the storm. And afterward they grow and bloom with even sweeter and more beautiful flowers and fruits. So the true enjoyment of the tree is by watering the root. And when we understand that God is the source of everything and everyone, Therefore, Krishna begins this verse. One can find true peace with three understandings. One is naturally God, the root of all existence. Everything we do should be for the Lord's pleasure. Everything we do should be in harmony with the Lord. And Krishna, such a Lord, he's the supreme proprietor, the all-powerful, the greatest controller of all controllers. And he's written about in so many Puranas and scriptures all over the world about his power. But he comes in his original, eternal form and mood as Krishna, who's so beautiful. He's not playing the flute for his own pleasure. Just like when you water the root of a tree, does the root keep the water for itself? Thinking, this is my water. As soon as you put water in the root of the root, its happiness is distributing it to every part of the tree. To the trunk, to the bark, to the branches, to the leaves, to the flowers and fruits. So similarly, when we actually live in harmony with what pleases Krishna, and Krishna appears in such a sweet way to give us pleasure, to give us happiness. And this beautiful concept of Ram, in Sanskrit, Ram means the reservoir of all pleasure. And Sita is who gives the maximum pleasure to Ram, as Radha to Krishna. The reservoir of all pleasure means when we're reconnected with Ram, then Ram shares infinite love with us. And when we actually tune in to God's love, the nature of love itself is to reciprocate with our love. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam. All activities, all yagyas should be done to water the root of the tree of our life and the world. And Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. That the Supreme Truth is the proprietor of everything that exists. Janmadya Shayataha. The Brahma Sutra tells. The Absolute Truth is from whom everything emanates. The source of everything. And when we try to be the controller or think ourselves to be the proprietor of anything that is not really ours, then we're bound to suffer. In one sense, this principle is being honest, that everything God has created, the sun and the air and the water, our bodies, we didn't make our bodies. And our parents, they didn't have a strategic plan of how things were going to come out. Everything is coming out by nature. And sarva yonisha konteya murteya sabhavantiya. Krishna describes he's the controller, the proprietor, of nature. Nature is Krishna's energy. So this body is entrusted to us. Our families are entrusted to us. Our homes, all of our skills and all of our abilities, they're entrusted to us. We're caretakers. To recognize that and live in harmony with this understanding. And then to understand that Krishna, or God, who has so many names, Lord Ram, is this ever well-wishing, dearmost friend to everyone. He's in our hearts. He's in the hearts of all living beings. But he's such a loving friend, he doesn't interfere with our free will. He'll remain hidden in our hearts unless we want to be with him. We want to recognize him. He's always with us. He's providing everything for our life at every moment. But he's willing to remain with his soul birth after birth after birth through so many millions of species of life without even being recognized or appreciated, but still giving everything. Never gives up. We're never alone. And when we recognize not just the power of God, but the love of God, even through all different situations of life, then Bhagavad Gita says, then we can actually experience true, lasting peace. And this is a principle that applies within our family. When we actually see everyone in our family as children of God, God's protecting me through my parents. God has entrusted his beloved children as our children. God's given us a home. Krishna's given us the capacity to acquire knowledge with our brain. He's given us the capacity of so many abilities. And they're all just on lease because all these things go away after a while by the power of time. But while we have these things, the beauty of life, when it's actually understood and practiced in the light of God's love. And that is bhakti. And because individual people are so disconnected from that spiritual experience, we're subjected to greed, to selfish, destructive lust, to envy and anger and illusion. And when those qualities are within us and they become very prominent, then they're manifested into the world through our words, through our actions, through our thoughts, through our relationships. We could cause pain to our family members, our friends, our nation, or some people who develop great influence could cause suffering and conflict in the whole world. And there are, just like in medicine, there are symptomatic procedures. You can get a pain reliever that relieves the pain. You can get a bandage that covers the wound. But what Bhagavad Gita and these great saints have always taught us is we must go to the root cause. A disconnection from the greatest everlasting need of every soul to feel truly loved, not just physically or mentally or emotionally, but the spiritual love of the heart and the soul. And to be an instrument of that love. Dharma, in its highest form, is in all of our duties, all of our occupations, all of our responsibilities in life. We are serving as instruments of that spiritual love that is our greatest potential in who we are. And Krishna tells in Gita, Param Dristva Nivartate. We could withstand the difficulties of this life with a positive attitude, with happiness, if we're experiencing something higher. Apuryamanam achala pratishta. Krishna explains so many rivers are going into the ocean. During the summer season, sometimes the rivers completely dry up, or sometimes there are very little trickles coming into the ocean. And during the middle of monsoon rain season, sometimes that same river is miles wide, with millions and millions of liters pouring every couple minutes of water. And so many rivers like this. But the ocean, it's neither deprived during the dry season, nor does it flood over during the rainy season. A smaller puddle of water or a little lake dries up when nothing comes in and floods over when there's a storm. But the ocean is not disturbed by the external situations because of its own depth. And Krishna is giving this analogy because within our hearts is an ocean of joy when we recognize Krishna's love and our love for Krishna. When we recognize that whether we're Shabari offering a little piece of berry, or whether we're Hanuman jumping across oceans, anyone who is just harmonizing their values, their purpose, and whatever abilities they may have in seva, in harmony with Krishna's love, that person, the world, when there's difficulties, tragedies, challenges, obstacles, It's like on the surface of the ocean. Sometimes there's big waves and sometimes it's very peaceful. But if you go deep down, it's always peaceful. It's not affected. So when our happiness and the love of our relationships are on a very superficial level, it's subjected to disturbance at any moment. But when it has depth, the superficial changes of this world cannot disturb the peace, the happiness, and the love of the depths of our true self. And Krishna's telling Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's telling Arjuna to live with this consciousness even while fighting a battle. In fact, Arjuna was thinking, I want to leave. Let them do whatever they want. I don't want to be a part of it. And Krishna told him, leaving, you're just another part of it. Don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution. Duryodhana was shooting arrows and utilizing his clubs and his chariots and all of his military strategic planning. He was using it out of greed and envy and arrogance. And Arjuna was actually doing exactly the same things with the same type of facilities. But with love, with peace in his heart. In religion, everybody wants to say whatever I'm doing is for God. But that's tested by our values and our character. Actually doing it for God means without prejudice, without envy, without hatred. I was giving example of tree. I'd like to share a story. Some years ago, I went with a bus of teenagers to a forest in Northern California. And the two largest trees on planet Earth are in that forest. They're sequoia trees. We went to the second largest tree. At the base of it, it's 40 feet wide, one tree. Would take about 20 human beings holding their hands to go around it. There were statistics there too. It said if you filled it with water, a family of 6 could get 3 baths a day for 27 years. And in America, basketball is a very popular sport. It said if you hollowed that tree out, you could put 159,000 basketballs in. So how many cricket balls? So many millions. It's a big tree. But if you look up, you'll see a significant portion of the tree is black. Because that tree has been there for 1,700 years. And during that time, there was many forest fires. But even through those fires, the tree just kept growing. The fires come. Sometimes there's blazing fires, sometimes there's torrential rains in that part of California, sometimes it's storms of snow, like Badrinath. But the tree keeps growing. And then we went to the largest tree. It's, according to science, 2,200 years old. And the size of the tree, proportionately, if a mouse, not a rat, a mouse, if a mouse is standing on the ground looking up at a 6-foot man, it's the same proportion as a 6-foot man looking up at this tree. So I asked the teenagers, this tree has been here for 2,200 years old. You know, it was here during the Roman Empire. And all the different civilizations that came and went, and all the different wars that came and went. It was here many, many centuries before any Europeans ever came to this continent. This tree has stood through a lot. If this tree could talk, what message would he give humanity? And the boys among the teenagers, they were telling so many jokes. And then one girl, her name was Lakshmi. She became very serious and emotional. And she was speaking from her heart what the tree was telling her to say. It was quite amazing. She said, you human beings are so foolish, and yet you think you're so great. You have such short lives. Compare 2,200 years and he's still in perfect health. And you know, when you get to your 70s, if you last that long, there's not that much left, actually. Maybe 90 or 100 years. Said you have such insignificant lives and you waste it fighting with each other over so many superficial reasons and so many superficial things, and you're so distracted, becoming so attached to what's going to be taken away very soon. Why don't you become serious about really what is actually meaningful and purposeful in life? And as Lakshmi was saying this, she was crying. It's such a lesson. Durlabha manava janma. Human life is so rare. And we have, you know, an ant, a little insect ant, thinks it has a long life. Because relevant to an ant's consciousness, they have the same experience as we living 100 years. They go through all the changes. So really, the difference is the ant, it's not the span of life that makes us greater. The difference is, as human beings, we have the opportunity to realize the eternal nature of our own souls. We have the opportunity to experience the supreme, infinite love of God within our heart and within the hearts of others. We have the opportunity to actually be instruments of that love in whatever we do. Whether we're in business or commerce or technology or software, or whether we're in medicine or building or real estate, or whether we're in education or farmers or sadhus or swamis. Those are all details. Mothers, fathers. We all have the opportunity to actually not only experience the true peace and the true love that's within us, but to live our life in such a way to share that. And I was in a forest of redwood trees. And while I was walking with a friend, the forest ranger was telling some tourists, I'm going to tell you the underground secret of the redwood forest. So I was a teenager in the 1960s, so in America. So I have an inclination toward underground secrets. So I listened very carefully. He said, these redwood trees, he said, most of them are many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. And this part of California where this forest is, it's hilly. And the soil is very loose, so it's hard for the roots to grow very deep. And he said, over the thousands of years, there has been devastating earthquakes, massive blizzards of snow, tornadoes, so many different windstorms. How do they keep growing? And he explained, underground where you cannot see, the roots of the redwood trees reach outward, looking for each other. And when two roots come in contact, they naturally embrace each other. They make an inseparable knot. He said, in this way, the trees that are 1,000 years old and the new little trees that are just growing, all of them are giving shelter to one another by embracing their roots. They're all holding each other up and helping each other grow. And in this way, they are the tallest and oldest trees on the planet. Their roots, the root of our consciousness really is how we give and receive our affection. In their own ways, these trees are affectionately giving shelter to each other, and their unity is their strength. This is Mother Nature's lesson to us. It's God speaking through nature. And from a spiritual experience, that intertwining of our hearts with one another on this deep level is called satsang. It's the rarest thing. It's so precious. In this little life we have the opportunity to have satsang in the company of people who share our hearts with Krishna, with God, whose souls can actually be connected with affection. An affection we can share with our families, an affection we can share with the world through whatever we do. To give time with gratitude for the opportunity for satsang. To hear the science of self-realization. The philosophy of yoga. Yoga means the harmony of the body, the mind, the heart, with the soul, with God, with nature, and with each other. So I'm so grateful to Nityananda Charan Prabhu. He's so kindly coming here to this 360 West building to remind you about the foundation that you're all living on and standing on and depending on, but not even recognizing usually, to help us to recognize. In satsang, we hear these higher truths, and we become inspired to apply these higher truths to the way we live, and especially in how we interact, respect, and learn to actually really love and care beyond our egos with our own family members. On the superficial level, or we could say the lower level, there's so many reasons to fight, so many reasons to disagree. So many reasons to really be upset. But if we have a spiritual practice where we can make that inner connection and understand that higher peace, that higher reality that's within us, that's who we actually are. If we could somehow or other just be removed from all the distractions all around us so that we could recognize, if we can cleanse the dust from the mirror so we could see ourselves, then on that higher level, we could actually work out all disagreements and all. It doesn't mean we have to agree with each other, because actual love is beyond agreement or disagreement. The actual love of the soul is the spontaneous nature. If we see something wrong, we feel compassion. Even if we fight for justice, we do it with compassion, not with envy or hate. And that is yoga. That is dharma. That is religion. And in satsang, we learn this science of self-discovery. And then we strive to give some time every day by which we could actually cultivate. During the summer season, we have so many flowers at our Govardhan Eco Village, and they're standing in the moonlight at night, and they're standing in the sun during the day. But for a few minutes every day, we give time to give them water. And when they have water, then the moonlight and the sunlight helps them flourish. But that's something you have to give time to. So that seed of knowledge, that seed of bhakti, of dharma that's within us, needs to be wide, needs our attention. In satsang, we learn how to see life in a grateful spirit, rather than with all kinds of demands and expectations that can never really be fulfilled. If we're living in a cave, or we're living in 360 West, we could be grateful for what we have. We could be grateful for the opportunities we have to earn. But we express that gratitude by how we earn it, how we live, and how we share with one another. And how with all of our disputes individually, nationally, internationally, we actually have a platform that harmonizes. A platform of awareness and consciousness where we could actually see life as it is, rather than all the different ways we're influenced and programmed. That's satsang. And we get faith. Faith in these higher realities. Faith in this higher purpose. And then we give time every day to cultivate our own spiritual strength and connection. We nourish that seed that's within us. And then we try our best. We all have our shortcomings, but that's fine. We're just sincere to try our best to live with a grateful heart, where the roots of love and devotion and dharma can actually grow very deep and could reach out to join with others. And then we could grow. One philosopher wrote that adversity and heartbreak come along with a seed that has equal to or far greater benefit to us. And my beloved Guru, Srila Prabhupada, he wrote that one's greatness should be estimated by how one can tolerate provoking situations. If we're helping one another, if we give time to nourish our own spiritual awareness, and then we live our life striving to live with character, to live with integrity, to live in the light of God's love rather than the ego's insecurities. And that option is for everyone. And the example we set, however big or small it is, the example we set for those near to us and for the rest of the world is what actually gives life truly fulfilling meaning and purpose. And one of the great benedictions that Krishna has given us is Harinam, the name of God. Kali Kale Namarupe Krishnavatar. In this age of Kali, the Supreme Lord incarnates in the sound, the transcendent sound vibration of these mantras. We're actually in the supremely purifying, merciful, loving, compassionate presence of God when we are sincerely meditating upon, in our japa, in our meditation, in our kirtan, the names of the Lord. It purifies our minds, purifies our hearts, and actually brings us to that very deep place where that ocean of the soul is resting, where truly the ultimate perfection of peace is prema, shanti, and prema, to love. And then we find that place within ourselves that can be the reality of our life and all our relationships. And we could not only feel peace, but be instruments of peace in this world of uncertainty and inevitable chaos. And I'm sorry if I'm late, but after I heard that you were all irregular, I felt solaced that you would certainly all understand. Thank you very much.